Hi, I'm popping in to talk about a quick newsworthy story. Fuel prices in the country are on fire, burning a hole in our pockets. As of today, petrol prices were rupees 86.95 in Delhi, 93.49 in Bombay, 89.85 in Bangalore, and 89.39 in Chennai. Those are some of the highest price tags since 2013, and the same goes for diesel. Fuel price hikes have already happened 11 times in just a month plus of 2021. So, what's going on? First, a quick understanding of how fuel prices are determined. Since India imports 84% of its domestic demands from crude oil, the international prices of crude oil, in our case Brent crude, have a direct bearing on what fuel costs in India. As the price of Brent crude goes up and down, oil marketing companies or OMCs here revise fuel prices accordingly. They don't have much choice. They have to play along as the market fluctuates to keep their businesses running. Now, the price of Brent crude in turn is determined by demand and supply. It had fallen from $66 per barrel at the beginning of 2019 to $19 in April 2020 as the pandemic brought the world to a halt. But demand has increased since world economies have now started recuperating. There's one additional factor. In early January, the oil producing and exporting countries, or OPEC, and Russia agreed to cut back on oil production at the same time. So the increased demand was met with a decreased supply, and so the prices rose. Which is why one reason why petrol and diesel are more expensive for us is because the raw material Brent crude is costlier overall, right now around $55 a barrel. At the same time, India is also going back to pre pandemic levels of activity, and so fuel consumption is rising. Net net, crude oil costs a lot more, and we're also buying a lot more of it. This buying, the OMCs are buying this crude oil in dollars, but all their expenses within India are in rupees. So the exchange rate also has an impact on the final cost that you have to pay. But what if I told you that even after we take into account the increase in demand, the decrease in supply, and the not so great exchange rate, that you are still paying on an average 60% more than what the OMCs would charge you if the government wasn't involved? Yes, that's right. The bulk of the high prices of petrol and diesel are made up of additional duties and cesses levied by the central and the state governments. Generally speaking, right now, excise duty and VAT constitute almost 63% of the price of petrol and 60% for diesel. Let's take the example of Delhi. Out of the nearly 87 rupees that you pay for a litre of petrol, rupees 32.98 per litre goes to the center in taxes. Another rupees 19.55 goes to the state in taxes. There's also a small dealer commission of rupees 2.6 included. So your fuel cost is just above rupees 30 actually. As a thumb rule, only 25 to 30% of the retail fuel rates are dependent on international fluctuations. The rest are all taxes. Let's go back to March 2020 really quickly. When the international prices of crude oil fell drastically, we were still seeing petrol and diesel become more expensive. Why did the consumer not get the benefit then? Because then the government decided to mop up any gains by increasing taxes. I'll also remind you that fuel does not fall under the ambit of the goods and services tax, and so it remains one of those few revenue sources, directly controlled not just by the center, but the state governments as well. As much as 85% of the state's revenues come from taxes, of which GST receipts make up a major chunk, and we know that the center fell short of making those payments in a big way in 2020. So, to make up for all these losses in fuel tax and other sources of revenue due to the pandemic, between April and December last year, in 9 months, petrol and diesel prices were revised over 70 times, mostly upwards. So, the OMCs have very little wiggle room to help out the consumer. They have to pass on the variation in international prices. But the taxation handle, that's under the government. The same government that has nearly doubled its revenue and fuel taxes since it came to power in 2014. Given how the budget has come and gone without any announcements of decrease in fuel prices, it's safe to say that we'll be paying a pretty penny to get from point A to B for a while now. And it's not just petrol or diesel that goes into the tanks of your vehicle. Transportation of all goods and commodities is impacted by costlier fuel. I'll keep you apprised on any newsworthy developments on this topic. My name is Pallavi Prasad. Thank you for your time.